Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Extra History. Today is part 2 of the Irish Easter Rising, the eve of the Revolution. So yeah, we're about to see them actually make some more moves before the big day. Not sure how close we are to the actual date, but we're about to hop in and see for ourselves. So actually really curious to see how plays out. So without further ado, let's check it out. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's go.
The German Club, New York City, August 24th, 1914,
German
2
Club.
years before the Rising. Two groups of men file in and take their seats, the air tense with expectation. The First World War rages, the US has yet to pick a side, and German officials in America are working hard to extend their country's influence behind the scenes. Today's meeting is part of that operation. One of the two groups consists of German dignitaries, an ambassador, a military attaché, a banker, and a journalist. Many of them are spies, working to disrupt ties between the United States and the Entente. And they are led by the cordial but unreadable Johann Heinrich von Bernstorff, a Prussian count and ambassador. The other party considers themselves a diplomatic delegation, albeit for a state that doesn't exist.
The Irish
yet.
brother.
They are Irish nationalists, some American-born, but others from Ireland. The nationalists make their proposal. They want German assistance in defeating their mutual enemy, the British. And they ask for only two things, weapons and military expertise. Von Bernstorff listens intently and promises to contact his superiors to see what can be done. Because if he can help raise rebellion in Ireland, the war could really be over by Christmas.
Only. Oh yeah, that was actually their old belief. They could finish the war by Christmas.
Thanks so much to World Anvil for
Nope.
helping us forge
Locked down
today's
for a few more
historical
years.
tale. Last episode, we explored the background causes of the Easter Rising and how politics, both in Parliament and the streets, led to the moment in 1916 where people went for their rifles. Today, though,
Yeah, that
we
does
want to
sound about right.
rewind a little bit and go back to 1914 to trace the web of spies and backroom operators trying to put those rifles into revolutionary hands. By the later half of 1914, preparations for an Irish nationalist
So now we're
uprising
disarming
were
the
already
revolution
well
now,
underway.
okay?
A shadowy faction of the Irish
Irish
Republican
Republican,
Brotherhood,
or
calling
IRB.
itself the Military Council, was forging ahead, hoping to strike while Britain was embroiled in a world war. But to succeed, the plotters knew
Right.
they'd need help
Wilhelm
from
II.
overseas. Both Germany and America seemed like natural allies, the former because it was at war with Britain and would benefit from a revolt, and the latter because it contained a large Irish population which included militant nationalists. In fact,
Well, that's true. They were there because of the potato famine, which I will cover, just not now. Need to finish this up first. I start to see why they wanted these guys as allies. A lot of national. Hey, any enemy of Britain is the friend of theirs, so the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And well, yeah, a big Irish population in the States, so makes sense. Anyway.
in the 1860s and 70s, an Irish-American radical group known as the Fenian Brotherhood had repeatedly invaded Canada as a way to pressure the British to leave Ireland. As a result, Irish nationalists traveled to the US hoping to secure funding from Irish Americans and support from German diplomats. Foremost among those operatives was Roger Casement, a former British diplomat. Casement had become disillusioned with the empire and embraced the nationalist cause. On his visits, he met with both senior Irish Americans and German officials such as von Bernstorff, but progress was slow. So, in late 1914, Casement decided to go to the source. He traveled to Germany in disguise, narrowly dodging British spies along the way. Once in Berlin, he became one of several Irish nationalists courted by German nobles and diplomats, and through those connections, secured nominal backing from the Kaiser. That done, he started a new project, recruiting a force of Irish nationalists out of Irish prisoners of war, captured while serving in the British Army. Casement visited POW camps in Germany, one holding 2,000 Irish prisoners, in hopes to raise a German-led and armed legion that could join the planned uprising. Yet his plea for Irish unity seemed to fall on deaf ears. Less than 60 men volunteered, and he abandoned the effort after, according to one American diplomat, quote, "The remaining Irishmen chased him out of the camp." It was an ill omen, and not the only one. The Germans had supplied him with fewer weapons than he'd hoped for, and no military advisors. Disillusioned, in April 1916, Casement boarded a German U-boat and prepared to return to Ireland in hopes to put off the rising before it ended in disaster. Meanwhile, back in Ireland, matters were close to spiraling out of control. The IRB's military council had to keep its planned rising a secret, not only to avoid discovery by the British, but also to hide their plans from their own organization. The president of the IRB, nominally the council's parent group, didn't feel the time was right for a rising, a view shared by the commander of the Irish Volunteers, Owen MacNeill. But despite this, many Irish volunteer officers owed their loyalty to the military council and could be relied upon to fight if the military council called for it. And to add yet more daggers and cloaks to this cloak and dagger convention, there was a small nationalist faction even more determined to stage an uprising than the IRB's military council. The Irish Citizen Army, led by former British soldier James Connolly, saw themselves as socialist revolutionaries and were planning a rebellion of their own.
Jeez, how many is this now? Like, we got the Irish Nationals, then we got the military council, the IRB, then the Nationals, and now these guys. Sheesh. You need like chart to see where they're going. Hey, no wonder they... everyone just wants this freedom, but they're just not sure when. Some are just saying, hey, let's wait, we're not ready yet. The others just like, start the revolution now! We don't care about the casualties! Which, bad idea.
That disunity would invite destruction, the military council secretly reached out to the firebrand Connolly, inviting him to join them rather than strike out alone. To the council's relief, Connolly accepted. It was time for the next stage of the plot. On the 19th of April, 1960, the military council published a forged document that detailed British plans to arrest senior nationalists. The council then informed officers in the Irish Volunteers that the rising would begin Easter Sunday. Of course, nationalists with lukewarm views about the rising, like Owen MacNeill, were kept in the dark. But revolutionary circles are small, and a rising's hard to keep quiet. MacNeill found out and panicked. He issued a countermanding order, instructing the Irish Volunteers not to take part in the uprising. Chaos ensued. Irish Volunteers had to choose whether to follow MacNeill's orders or the military council. And amidst the confusion, some retrieved hidden weapons and prepared to fight, while others left them in lofts and barns, believing it would be better for the cause if they stayed at home. And on top of that, another drama was playing out at sea. Off the coast of Kerry Island. Good Friday, April 21st, 1916. The German naval captain checks his charts. The maps are in Norwegian, and he has no radio on board. His ship, the SS Liebau, currently disguised as a neutral Norwegian vessel, is deep in British waters. And within the Liebau's hold, concealed beneath a cargo of timber, are 20,000 rifles, 1,000,000 rounds of ammunition, and 10 machine guns. They're the German Empire's contribution to the imminent rising, and while the shipment is smaller than the nationalists hoped, it still dwarfs the last gun running at Howth 2 years earlier. But when the ship arrives, there's no one to collect the guns. The captain is in the right place, but at the wrong time. Irish nationalists are expecting to meet him 2 days later. None are present along the coast to guide the German ship to shore, and the captain's worst fears quickly materialize. 3 Royal Navy destroyers appear on the horizon. They hail him, and he responds with his false identity. Thinking the Norwegian ship is lost, they escort the Liebau into Cork Harbor. And knowing they'll be searched, the Liebau's captain gives orders to place scuttling charges rather than reveal his cargo. After a series of thudding detonations, the weapons meant to ensure Irish independence sank into the depths within sight of Cork Harbor. That Easter weekend, it seemed as though everything that could go wrong had gone wrong for the military council. Confusion reigned among the rank and file thanks to MacNeill's counterorder, and the desperately needed German arms and ammunition had been sunk. And to top things off, Roger Casement, who was supposed to link up with the weapons shipment, had been deposited by a German U-boat on the Irish coast. Ill from a recurring bout of malaria, he was found and arrested by an Irish policeman. Now, the local Irish Volunteers might have attempted a rescue, but they were under orders not to make any moves before Easter Sunday in case it tipped the authorities off. Everything now seemed in doubt. Ironically, the British were aware of almost all of this. Not only had they successfully intercepted both Casement and the nationalist arms shipment, but the very idea of staging an uprising during Easter had been leaked to various senior sources. And some historians have even suggested that parts of the British establishment actually wanted a rising to happen, as it would allow future crackdowns on the nationalist movement. But it seems, however, that most of the authorities were simply too slow to act on the intelligence they received. And in that sense, finally, the nationalists experienced some luck. The military council delayed the rising from Easter Sunday to Easter Monday, allowing them to meet and decide whether or not to go ahead with their plans. They voted on it and raised hands. They would carry on. One of their members, barrister, writer, and committed revolutionary Patrick Pearse, who 6 months earlier had delivered a speech to a nationalist crowd that had ended with the words, "Ireland unfree shall never be at peace," was elected president of the Irish Republic. Orders were to strike the following day. For better or worse, the uprising was going ahead, and the military council would now make certain that Pearse's words were no empty threat. The time for oration, negotiation, and deals in the dark was over, and the time for actions had arrived. Oh man.
Yeah, no kidding. This whole thing was like nuts. Like everything that went wrong for the nationalists did. I mean, I can't even blame them. Like I'd be like, wait, do we actually, are we actually going through with this or not? I don't know. I'd be confused as heck. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.